Pop quiz. Those are words that have probably terrified every middle school and high school student at some point in our lives. We're going to talk about testing coming up in the King's Forge. Testing. That's today's topic. We're here in the King's Forge. My name is Randy, and I'd like to welcome you to our program today. This is another segment of what we call the Crucible. I've got some scriptures here on all kinds of stuff. James 1, verses 2 and 4. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Have you ever considered sometimes, just like in school, we were tested in our subjects, math, science, whatever, and at those times when you didn't do well, maybe you didn't study, maybe you weren't paying particular attention to the specific details, and you didn't make a good grade, or maybe you even failed the test. Oftentimes, many times in those situations, teachers, if you're humble enough and serious enough to go and ask them, can I retake the test? You may not be able to make a perfect score. They may deduct a certain amount because you're retesting, but you could do better. Have you ever considered the fact that sometimes we face tests and trials so that we fail? God sometimes wants us to be, I think, not sometimes, all times, wants us to be aware of just exactly what our limitations are and where we're falling short. Sometimes we think we're doing better than we are. Sometimes we don't think we're doing as good as we are. And so God, in his wisdom, allows us to experience times of testing and trials so that we have a marker by which we can grade ourselves. We know how well we did or how shamefully we did. And then we can revisit the scriptures and sort of educate ourselves. Many times, there's various ways of being tested in various applications of all kinds of scriptures. Many times we have such a narrow view of our own Christianity. We talk about salvation, 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 salvation. And salvation is wonderful. It's great. It is the greatest gift of God. I would go far as to say it's his greatest work. There's more said about the redemption than there is about the creation. And if we use that as a yardstick, then the redemption of God is a much greater work than even the creation of God. But in the midst of all this, in the midst of the redeeming, he's giving us tools to let us know what our progress is. We hate to be tested. Testing sometimes is just, we look at it as this arduous thing that's just, why? And yet, James says, count it all joy. When we start to understand and align ourselves with what God is doing with us and for us in our lives, it changes our perspectives. And so those things that we once looked upon with dread, we can now look actually upon with anticipation. If you're a very studious person and you've done your homework, you don't fear the test. You look forward to it because I'm going to make a great grade on this. And oftentimes, I know, and you know, I try to do this with my kids, and I've know when I was young, I'd bring home a great grade, usually that came a reward of some sort with that, whether it be a privilege that I wanted, or whether it be some sort of gift or surprise, or maybe even just a surprise trip to the local ice cream store. There was something that always seemed to be rewarding, and even those times when maybe there wasn't some type of reward like that, the success and the self-esteem that I built by knowing that I was on the right path was reward enough. Everything else was just bonus. It's like icing on the cake. So when we face times of testing and times of trials and we fail, it might be that it's a good idea to change the way that you perceive that failure. Look at it as an opportunity. Now where you need to spend more time, more attention in your own life, in your own, ambitions, your own, what's going on with you, to bring yourself more in line with God's will for your life. And in doing so, you will reap many of those same rewards. God will, in fact, bless you. We will be happier, more joyful. We will have less strife in our life, and we will be at peace more in our lives. So count it all joy when you run into those moments in your life when you realize that the Master has just given you a pop quiz. And rejoice in the Lord. Thank you. This is just a little something to think about today. Thank you for tuning into The Forge. We hope that we bless you. And if we do, please like and subscribe to our channel. Please hit the bell and get reminders of every time that we post new content. Support us. We're going to be instituting a Patreon, and there's a lot of things to come. Continue to join us. You're welcome here. We love you very much. We thank you very much for being part of what we're doing here, being welcome in our ministry. And you're always welcome in the King's Forge. Have a blessed day.